What we need is no-go zones created by Aspergers, Edgelords. As you can see, there are no-go zones set up in Sweden by Muslims. And there are probably something close to no-go zones set up by blacks in their neighborhoods in cities like Detroit or Baltimore. But why aren't there no-go zones set up by characters like James Grider, who will congregate together in a neighborhood, and then they start defying society's rules and start living by their own rules. And when police go in there to try and correct something, the police are met with hostility, and individual police officers see it as a punishment to be forced to patrol the area. So this place would be full of school shooter types, full of incels and edgelords, full of kids who have been suicidal or have been sent to behavior correcting institutions, kids who had murdered their parents in rage or whatever, kids with Aspergers or autism, and these would be white people too. It would be all white. They would be racially segregating themselves. These characters would decide they don't feel like going to a Jewish-controlled Common Core school, and they would just rather educate themselves at their own leisure, perhaps with things they are interested in, or that are useful in some way to their survival. When a police car cruises in there to bust some kid for truancy, everyone gets tribal and militant and gangs up on the cops, and everyone will be packing heat because they don't care about the gun laws. If one of them gets arrested for disobeying some unconstitutional laws set up by Zog, these people will then riot and destroy the neighborhoods of the normies. In this culture and society, this no-go zone, you would be forgiven by your own people for murdering a cop or murdering a hostile normie in rage. If you exhibit some antisocial behavior, scientific reasons would be explored for it to justify it, rather than punish you with jail. If a legal system of any sort exists in such a world, you'd be unlikely to suffer a strong punishment, because the judge and the jury would all be mentally ill school shooter types like yourself, and they'd be able to relate to you psychologically and sympathize. So, in such a case, how bad of a punishment could they give you? No forensic science or digital surveillance technology would be used for crime solving. This society would be against the existence of those things. Laziness would be respected in a sense that if someone claims they don't want to work more than 2 hours a day because they want time to nap or rest, because they are trying to preserve their youth so they can look like a teenager at 50, that would be respected. Things would be built and maintained, but at an extremely slow pace, because people would not consume coffee or whatever for artificial energy. Everyone's health demands would be respected. So if you only want to work an hour a day, you only work an hour a day. So that's why everything would be built and maintained at an extremely slow pace. Some people say such a such a white trash society would be hell. That it would be a deteriorated settlement where everything would be falling apart and everyone would be a savage toward one another. But I think without the negative influence of the Zog, these people would actually turn out to be quite healthy. After all, there would be a lot of empathy and sympathy going on for each other among these rejects because they would understand each other's emotional issues. They'd be able to relate to one another, so there would be a natural biological motivation to respect others of their own kind. We wouldn't have cruel Zog laws treating everyone like an animal for breaking the law. If an incel like Elliot Rodger got desperate and sexually assaulted a girl, he wouldn't go to jail. The girl would be explained that he is an incel, so she would pity him and understand why he did what he did. Then certain people in the community who feel touched emotionally by his problem would search out a sexy girl who would be willing, voluntarily or maybe for money to have sex with Elliot Rodger, maybe out of goodwill or maybe for money, to help him out, and then everything would be fine. No one would have to go to prison. No one would have to go on shooting rampages. Right now, Zog forbids prostitution. But in this no-go zone, prostitution would be legal. Death threats would be legal because it would be understood that these are emotionally suffering people. So it's natural for them to produce death threats. And these would be intelligent people too, with IQs over 100. You can be a psychotic school shooter, but at the same time you can have an intelligence to invent or build something. Oh yeah, that's how it is. Imagine there would be no land and housing laws in this no-go zone. So any one of these individuals who wants to build a shelter, a house, can just select a spot and start slowly building a house, working an hour a day in case their body is too weak or something. If it wasn't illegal, I could have had a house framed already on top of public land, maybe built it on stilts so I don't have to lay a concrete foundation because working with concrete is too difficult and dirty. But instead, because you need inspectors and shit, and you need to have the rights to the land and all kinds of permits, I'm gonna end up houseless and dead in the elements, just like the Zog wants. And my health is too weak to work to buy a house or even get a place to rent. Almost everything we earn goes into paying rent, or for some people it's toward paying off a mortgage. If you're building your own shack, so to speak, you would only be paying for the materials, so it would be a huge weight off the shoulders, all the money you'd save. Then if you want another room in that shack or whatever, well, you just have to work for the materials to build that room. It would be nice to steal electricity from the normies, the way it works in the favelas in Brazil. This no-go zone would be like a favela. And the thing is, even if you put parents murderers and school shooters into this society, you won't have problems from them being psychopaths, because the influence of Zog will not be upon them. Because why shoot up a school if you're not required to attend it in the first place? Why kill your parents when at any age you can go off and easily and affordably build yourself a shelter away from your parents? Why steal if you don't have inflation and a usury system that puts you in poverty, and you're not paying rent or mortgage? Actually, you can steal from the normies. There will be no more age of consent laws or divisions into classes based on age. You can have sex at any age. You can become moms and dads at 14, and it will be easily affordable. Oh, but You have to rob the normies and kill them when they venture into the neighborhood, and you have to act militant. Otherwise, it will not be a no-go zone. It will not be a favela.